language.
Dédé àsìkò yìí o ẹ̀yin ìsakété ìlú tí sọ̀rọ̀ sí yín gbogbo ìgbà ni mo ń foti West Africa Democracy Radio.
Shekka muna a Najeriya. Ku saurari WADR.
West Africa Democracy Radio.
Je suis à Dakar, au Sénégal, et j'écoute la WADR 94.9 FM.
West Africa Democracy
West Africa Democracy Radio.
We are West Africa Democracy Radio.
94.9 FM.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM in Dakar and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Treason trial of former Guinean President Alpha Condé and activist Al-Sisi set to begin on Thursday. African leaders pitch investment at 9th Tokyo Conference for Continental Growth.
Africa is the next frontier for investment. Most parts of the world are saturated when it comes to investment. Africa is opening up, is growing, and is a place that Japan should be looking at.
Human Rights Watch calls for provision for families internally displaced by floods in Limbo, northern Senegal. And police in Nigeria's Katsina State say mosque attack death toll rises to 17.
The vigilante responded to the scene where they successfully blocked and engaged these armed bandits in a gun duel, thereby successfully thwarting their evil plan on the two communities.
Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. This evening we begin in Guinea, where the Kaloum Court of First Instance is set to host one of the country's most politically charged trials in recent history this Thursday, August 21. The case centered on allegations of treason and complicity in the possession of weapons and ammunition involves two high-profile defendants, former President Alpha Condé and Fode Musa Mara, a young activist of the RPG Essential Party, widely known by his alias Al-Sisi. The information was confirmed by Lansinet Jabate, one of the lawyers in charge of the case. Augustine Coley has more details in this report.
The trial date was confirmed by Lansinet Jabate, one of the defense attorneys involved in the proceedings. Jabate stated that the charges stem from a former complaint filed by Guinea's transitional authorities, who accused the two men of engaging in activities that threaten national security. The indictment reportedly includes claims of illegal possession of arms and alleged coordination of destabilizing actions against the state. Al-Sisi, a vocal supporter of the RPG Essential and a rising figure among youth activists, had been residing in Kenya for over a year before his arrest. He was apprehended in November 2023 during a general assembly at the party's headquarters in Bessia, Conakry. Following months of detention, he was recently transferred to the Conakry Central Prison in preparation for the trial. Meanwhile, Alpha Condé, who led Guinea from 2010 until his ousting in 2021, remains in exile in Turkey. Despite his physical absence, Condé has remained defiant. In a recent media statement, he dismissed the charges as buffoonery, alleging that the case is politically motivated attempt by the transitional government to silence opposition and discredit his legacy. The case has sparked widespread debate across media platforms and civil society cycles. For many Guineans, it raises critical questions about justice, accountability, and the role of transitional institutions in safeguarding democratic norms. Observers are closely watching how the judiciary handles the matter, as its outcome could shape the political landscape and influence Guinea's regional standing.
Augustine Coley filed a report while staying in Guinea. The National Agency for Emergency and Humanitarian Disaster Management, NADEM, issued an alarming assessment of the flooding that has hit Guinea since the start of the rainy season on Tuesday. According to the agency, between June 28 and August 5, 38 people lost their lives, 219 were injured, and one remains missing. Hundreds of families are left homeless after numerous homes collapsed and property was destroyed. The Sungeri prefecture suffered one of the heaviest tolls last week, with 2 confirmed deaths and significant material damage caused by torrential rain. The authorities highlighted the vulnerability of inhabited areas to climate hazards. Faced with the situation, the authorities are calling for the strengthening of prevention and support measures for disaster-stricken populations. In the meantime, Human Rights Watch, HRW, says Senegalese people displaced by tidal surges that climate change is making stronger and more common are suffering ongoing human rights violations with no durable solution in sight. In a 72-page report released on Wednesday titled Waiting for God, Flood Displacement and Planned Relocation of Fisher Folks in St. Louis, Senegal, the Human Rights Watch expressed concerns over families who lost everything when coastal floods hit their historic fishing communities on the Langue de Barbarie Peninsula in 2015 and 2016. According to the agency, the victims were moved to a site called Kayala, which Senegalese officials acknowledge is unfit for permanent habitation, adding that authorities violated their economic, social and cultural rights through inaction and left them out of a climate-related planned relocation benefiting others from their communities. Abdullah has more details in this report.
According to the report, the approximately 1,000 people who live in Kariela outside the St. Louis city center come from centuries-old fisherfolk communities on the Langue de Barbarie, which is highly exposed to the impact of climate crisis. It noted that after losing their houses to coastal floods and living for several months in tents, the families agreed to the local authorities to plan to move them to Kariela in late 2016. Erika Boa, climate displacement researcher at Human Rights Watch, said in the report that Senegal should urgently remedy the rights violations in Kariela and develop a policy to ensure that future climate-displaced communities receive adequate support, including through rights respecting planned relocation. It added that the government policy on climate-related planned relocation should include mechanisms for climate-displaced communities to request support, prioritize meaningful consultation, and establish criteria for relocation site selection to ensure beneficiaries' rights are fulfilled through relocation. The rights organization is also calling on the Senegalese government to ratify the Kampala Convention to protect the rights of internally displaced people. Human Rights Watch interviewed more than 100 people, including displaced people, government officials, and experts, and analyzed satellite imagery, academic publications, and documents from the Senegalese government, the World Bank, United Nations agencies, and non-governmental organizations.
Abdullah Hassan filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Elsewhere, the Press Union of Liberia has intervened in a case involving 2 journalists, Eric Opadio and Methuselah Gay, who face criminal charges in Riverside County. These charges have raised concerns about press freedom within the country and its adherence to international standards. The journalists are accused of criminal contempt of court and criminal coercion following their publications alleging corruption within the Yapa Town Magisterial Court. The report highlighted claims of bribery and questioned the release of a police officer allegedly involved with narcotics. However, the union has deployed attorney Bruce Bowe to represent Dio and Gay. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker completes the story.
Journalist Eric Opadio was initially arrested on August 13 under the direction of Magistrate Depar Zuku Depar, and Methuselah Gay was detained the following day after a complaint by police officer Ojuku Wis, who alleged that the journalist's reports falsely implicated him in narcotics possession and bribery. Speaking to WADR, Press Union of Liberia President Julius Kanuba emphasized the union's commitment to defending the journalist. According to Kanuba, the charges violate the Kamara Abdullah Kamara Act of Press Freedom, which decriminalized anti-free speech offenses.
So those charges are criminal charges, and criminal charges of journalists in Liberia, they are all obsolete. And so the press union felt it necessary to deplore on legal representations that there was a coordinated campaign by judicial and state actors in Rivers County to harass, intimidate, and silence these journalists. The public prosecutor that should be defending the journalists in court, the public defender said he cannot represent them because he has relationship with this particular police officer in terms of having conversations.
For his part, Emmanuel Dekle, Secretary General of the Association of Liberia Community Radio, strongly criticized the arrest and bail conditions, viewing them as a coordinated effort to silence journalists.
Over the years, people have used their power to suppress journalists and the media in general. And this is just one of the many instances. These journalists are charged in relation with their work directly, in which the Abdullah Kamara law outlawed that criminal defamation for which it can only be severed.
This case raises questions about Liberia's commitment to protecting press freedom, a cornerstone of democratic societies. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
African leaders are currently pitching the continent's investment opportunities at the 9th Tokyo International Conference for Sustainable Continental Development in Japan. Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, President Mahama of Ghana, President Tinubu of Nigeria, and Liberia's Joseph Boakai are among the continent's leaders participating in the conference. In a statement, Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama extended a strong invitation to Japanese investors onto the continent to take advantage of the African continent free trade area. While highlighting Ghana's 24 hours economy as a game changer for all-round businesses, trade and political stability, Mr. Mahama stressed that Africa remains the next major hub for global business with rich natural and human resources. Here is Ghana's President Mahama speaking.
Ghana is also the host country for the African Continental Free Trade Area. You all have heard the landmark protocol that was signed by African countries. So far, almost 50 African countries have signed that allow us to export duty-free, tariff-free into each other's markets. Increasing numbers of products are being registered. And once you register your product and it meets all the standards, you can export duty-free and tariff-free into each other's markets. And as you were told, the sub-regional market, which is West Africa, is 400 million people. Ghana is 33 million people. And the continental market is 1.4 billion people. And so with the vehicle of the African Continental Free Trade Area, you potentially can export into 1.4 billion market. Ghana is a land of opportunity, and many nationals from all over the world are investing in Ghana. We wish to, because of the discipline, quality standards, and industrial wisdom that Japanese businessmen have, we wish to encourage Japanese businessmen to look towards Ghana. Africa is the next frontier for investment. Most parts of the world are saturated when it comes to investment. Africa is opening up, is growing, and is a place that Japan should be looking at.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama speaking there. Now let's bring you some developing stories from Nigeria. First, the police in Katsina State on Wednesday said a death toll from the attack on a mosque located at Ungwa Mantau community in the Malumfashi local government area of the state has risen to 17. The spokesman of the Katsina State Police Command, DSP Abubakar Sadiku, confirmed this, said 15 people were earlier fatally shot and 7 injured by the attackers. He said 2 out of the 7 earlier injured later succumbed to their injuries while receiving treatment in hospital. The attack reportedly occurred during the early morning prayers when the bandits stormed the mosque and opened fire on the worshippers.
At about 10 p.m., we received an information at our Malumfashi Divisional Police Headquarters that some suspected armed bandits were moving towards Ungwer Jaji and Ungwer Marke, all of Malumfashi local government area suspected to be planning an attack on the two communities. Promptly, our DPO, in collaboration with the military, members of the State Community Watch Corps, the vigilante, responded to the scene where they successfully blocked and engage these armed bandits in a gun duel, thereby successfully thwarting their evil plan on the two communities. Regrettably, while escaping through the said Gidan Mantau village, the suspected armed bandit opened fire on the worshippers while praying in the mosque, fatally shooting about 15 people and injuring 7. Our operatives quickly rushed down to the scene where they succeeded in foiling this same attack. And however, normalcy has since been restored to this affected village. And as I am speaking with you currently, the Commissioner of Police, Katsina State Police Command, CP Bello Shehu, PSC, FDC, is on ground for an on-the-spot assessment, as he has deployed additional equipment and personnel to effectively tackle this issue, and investigations are ongoing to ensure the arrest of the perpetrators.
Spokesman of the Katsina State Police Command, SP Abubakar Sadiq, speaking there. Well, staying in northern Nigeria, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, on Wednesday says 3 bodies have so far been recovered from the boat accident in Sokoto State. It said that 25 people out of the over 50 passengers of the boat had so far been rescued. The agency, however, said it had concluded the search and rescue operations. NEMA's head of Sokoto Operation Office, Aliu Kafingdagi, who disclosed this on Wednesday, said the wooden boat was overloaded with passengers and other items. The latest incident adds to the report of boat accidents, which are common on Nigeria's waterways due to overcrowding and poor maintenance of local boats. In August 2024, at least 16 farmers died when a wooden canoe carrying them across a river of their rice fields capsized in Sokoto State.
You know, for the first 3 days, we have been on the rescue mission after a boat mishap carrying farmers and market men and women across the river Bojo in Goranye local government of Sokoto. The boat capsized on Sunday with about 50 or over 50 passengers on board. Luckily for us, that very day, 25 persons were rescued alive. And then the following day, such a rescue continues. That is on Monday. We were not able to retrieve anybody. But yesterday, 3 bodies were retrieved at a community close to the Gojo. Then one at Badilok, and then the other one upstream, down to about 40 kilometers from the eastern side in Wuchi, in Wurno local government. And incidentally, throughout, but we are having report that some of the bodies have been retrieved, but we are going there. But as it is, such a rescue has been called off because it's expected that after 24 hours, there is no chance of finding any survivor of the boat mishap.
NEMA's head of Sokoto Operation Office, Aliu Kafidinga, speaking there. And finally, in Nigeria, following recent unpalatable airport incident, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, has mandated all passengers must switch off their phones during civil flights. At a press conference in Abuja, NCAA Director General Chris Najomo said all phones must be switched off during the critical aspect of flight takeoff and landing in all airports in Nigeria. The directive by the civil aviation regulator followed a recent controversial brawl that involved a passenger, Comfort Emanson, and an Ibom air flight attendant. The NCAA boss said this will further put a stop to different rules by airlines, which have caused some sort of confusion among passengers of late. Well, here is the NCAA boss, Chris Najomo, and Peter Jiwa, Vice Chairman, Senate Committee on Aviation, speaking.
From today's engagement, and to avoid ambiguity and perceived confusion, all mobile phones, I repeat, all mobile phones and other portable electronic devices should be switched off during at least the critical phase of flight on all airlines. Switch off. There's nothing like anything like flight mode. Must be switched off. Nigerian air operators are therefore required to amend their operations manual to reflect this requirement and submit to the NCAA.
We have a responsibility to discharge our duties as and when due, and as we often say, without favor. We have enough rules, we have enough regulations. What is left is executing those rules, carrying out those regulations to the best of our ability in such a professional manner.
You headed the NCACA boss, Chris Najuma, and Peter Gia, Vice Chairman, Senate Committee on Aviation. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Recent trial of former Guinean President Alpha Condé and activist Al-Sisi is set to begin on Thursday. African leaders preach investment at 9th Tokyo Conference for Continental Growth. Human Rights Watch calls for provision for families internally displaced by floods in Limbo, northern Senegal. And police in Nigeria's Katsina State say monster attack death toll rises to 17. Still ahead, we do have a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget, you can listen to us live on wadr.org and join a live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. Ghana's Electoral Commission has announced key timelines for 2 upcoming parliamentary by-elections aimed at filling vacant seats in Parliament. The by-elections will be held in the Tamale Central constituency in the northern region and Akwatia in the eastern region. Both seats became vacant following the passing of the sitting members of Parliament. Nadi Detetain Accra report.
The Electoral Commission has announced September 30, 2025 as a date for the Tamale Central by-election. The poll follow the death of the MP for the constituency, Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, one of the 8 people who lost their lives in the August 6 helicopter crash. According to the EC, nominations will be received from September 8 to 10 at its Tamale Metropolitan Office, with forms available for download from the Commission's website. In a related development, the EC has confirmed that the printing of ballot papers for the Akwatia by-election will begin Wednesday, August 20. That election was triggered by the death of Ernest Yaukumi, the constituency's MP, in July this year. After a meeting between the Inspector General of Police and political parties, Director of Electoral Services, Benjamin Banobio, assured the media of the Commission's preparedness.
Indicated that we are ready. As at now, we are going to start printing of ballots. Recruitment has already been done. We have procured all the materials required for the elections. And so we are ready. Political parties also raise issues concerning security, and the police, led by the IGP, has assured us that there will be effective security to ensure that voters go about their normal duties on the D-Day in a very peaceful manner. And therefore, the people should have trust in the system. And nobody is going to intimidate anybody. What happened in Abrikuma North was raised, but the police assured us that that is a thing of the past, and that they are on the ground. They are going to ensure that nobody takes the law into his or her own hands.
The Electoral Commission says it remains committed to delivering peaceful and credible polls in both constituencies. For WDR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment takes us back to a story on African leaders currently pitching in Japan at the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development. Among the high-profile participants, Senegal's President Bashir Diomaye Faye, President John Dramani Mahama of Ghana, President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria, and Liberia's President Joseph Boakai. In his remarks, Ghana's President John Mahama issued a strong call to Japanese investors, urging them to tap into the potential of the African Continental Free Trade Area. To understand what the summit means for the African continent, we're being joined by Ghanaian economist Evans Nunu.
The first thing is that Ghana, just like most African countries, is struggling with its industrialization drive. Ghana is seeking to fully industrialize in order to diversify our export, to also export more finished products in order to get more revenue, foreign currencies in order to build our international reserves, and also to create more employment. So, I mean, given the technological base of Japan, and the kind of investment they are known for, I think that Ghana stands a good chance of benefiting from them technology-wise. And then in terms of our industrialization, I'm sure that will be of great benefit to us. So it is a step in the right direction, especially given the fact that we need more foreign direct investment. as a nation.
Right.
Remember, we are still before the IMF and our debt has been restructured. So if investors should come from Japan to set up directly in our economy, I think that would be a boost.
Right, indeed, that would be a boost. Overall, generally, how could increased Japan investment benefit Africa, especially infrastructure and trade?
I think that Japan coming into Africa, especially Ghana, we can create that enabling environment for their businesses to thrive. And so far, so good. Most of our expatriates, most of our direct investors from outside the country have never had regret visiting the free zone enclave, for example. And apart from the free zone board or the free zone enclave, Africa, our problems are similar. If you compare Senegal to Ghana to Nigeria, our economy is still struggling to industrialize like the Western world. So obviously, if Japan should enter into Africa, as I have enumerated in the case of Ghana, the same would apply. I mean, we stand a good chance of diversifying our trade frontiers, because then we don't do much international trade with Japan. It has been US, UK, and the Emirates. But if we are able to look at some of these countries, it will help to reduce our dependence on these major currencies from the Europe and the US. Ghana suffers a lot when it comes to the dollar. So our exchange rate regarding the dollar has always been worsened because we do much of our businesses using the dollars. But except that, in my own view, I think that it's high time we started looking at a better economic integration as a nation, and a good way of using a common currency like the ECO that became topical.
That was Ghanaian economist Evans Nono. And in sport news, in a dominant performance, Cape Verde outclassed reigning champions Tunisia, winning 87-54 at the Afro Basketball 2025 qualifiers in Luanda, Angola. Cape Verde led by as many as 35 points, controlling the game from start to finish, improved their record 3-1. The loss sees Tunisia's title defense come to an early and unexpected end. Cameroon is back in the Afro Basketball quarterfinals for the first time in 8 years after a hard-fought 77-68 win over DR Congo in Luanda. The indomitable Lions now face Egypt in the last 8. Meanwhile, Mali smashed Cote d'Ivoire 1-0-2 to 96 points in the latest quarterfinal. In football, Sudan and Senegal are through to the Chan 2024 quarterfinals after a tense 0-0 draw at Zanzibar's Aman Stadium. Sudan top Group D on goal difference, with defending champion Senegal finishing second. Meanwhile, Nigeria beat Congo 2-0 in Dar es Salaam, but it wasn't enough to overtake the two unbeaten sides. Liverpool star Mohamed Salah has been named the PFA Players Player of the Year after standout 2024-25 season. He scored 29 goals, securing his 4th Golden Boot, and registered a career-high 18 assists, a record bettered only by Kevin De Bruyne and Thierry Henry in Premier League history. And that's it on this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Umu Danyogo for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, Instagram, TikTok, at WDR English. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship gender program, 50-50. I am Imo Edet. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Baga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.